All right. Hello, everyone. We are live here today. I'm Forrest from Lightup. I do marketing here at Lightup, and I'm joined by these folks. You can introduce yourselves.
Hi. My name's Josh. I am head of solutions consulting for the partnership team here at Telium. And I get to work with partners like Darren, providing strategy and services around our software, and partners like Brian, working with technology, right? Different sorts of integrations where we share data out. And really interested in the topic we have today to talk about data quality and data quality issues and how they can impact your customer's experience. Thank you so much for joining and listening in.
Hi there. My name's Darren Rankin. I'm a partner of technology at Transparent Partners. We're an independent marketing consultancy company. And we essentially are helping brands every day to generate amazing customer experiences based off their tech and data. And then today we're going to talk to you about a case study regarding data quality and how we had some challenges and how we overcame those issues with the Lightup.ai platform. Nice to meet you all.
Hey everyone, my name is Brian Filing. I'm the head of field engineering at Lightup. I actually worked really closely with Darren as he was implementing Lightup, answering his questions, which was great. Working with Josh on the Telium side as well, just making sure that data was of quality and good health for everyone that was needing it. So great to actually see you all here.
Thanks, guys, for introducing yourselves and joining. So I see a lot of people are still joining the event right now. I think we'll probably kick off the presentation in about a couple minutes here. So I'm going to let folks join on in. Let us know where you're from in the chat here. Looks like Joshua has joined us from Atlanta. Welcome, Joshua. I'm here based out of Boston. But yeah, let's kick things off in the chat. I'm curious where people are dialing in from. And let us know why you joined. How'd you hear about it, why you joined, what you're pumped to hear, listen to. Woohoo, we got Michaela from Chicago. Nice. We were in Chicago as a team about, I think, 5 months ago. Yeah, we're celebrating another one of our customers. They're throwing a data quality party. We got Dina from Montreal. Hey. I was also just in Montreal 2 months ago. I was just telling Darren and Josh I was skiing in Mont Tremblant. Great city, lovely city there. Awesome. We have Dan from Texas. How far is that from you, Brian? Granbury.
Oh, it's Texas, so pretty far. Could be close by. Who knows?
Yeah. We got Ryan from Boston. Welcome, fellow neighbor. Christine from Scottsdale. Oh, sweet. And we have Ontario in the house. We have a little bit of a global presence here. That's good. Cool. All right, keep on. I see Joshua is interested in the marketing ops side. Perfect. I love that. Feel free to let us know what you're excited to hear about in the chat here. I'll keep monitoring that. We'll also be using the chat later on for follow-up questions along with the Q&A at the end of the presentation. But with that, I see a lot of the people have joined. So let's go to the next slide here and kick things off. Awesome. So what we're going to cover today, we already did introductions, so we'll skip that. And we're going to pass it over to Josh from Telium to basically describe customer data and how to deliver a great customer experience, and what is a data-first cloud data platform and the benefits of it from their perspectives. With that, we'll transfer it over to Darren from Transparent Partners, who is a customer of Lightup, and he's going to go into a case study of how they encountered a data quality issue that reduced their clients' email engagement by 40%, and the steps they took to rectify that and to prevent problems like that in the future. He's also going to dive into a little bit of the challenges of solving real-time data quality issues and his entire journey of kind of trying to find a solution for that. And then how he piloted Lightup and the reason he chose Lightup as a solution. And with that, we'll have a naturally great transition to Brian over here from Lightup, head of field engineering over here. and he's going to talk about the specifics of Lightup. So he's going to kick it off with, what is anomaly detection, right? It almost sounds like a buzzword. What is that? How can you make it better in theory? And how does Lightup actually do that differently in the market compared to other solutions out there? And then he will touch upon how you can understand Lightup's data quality platform works and what makes us unique in general. And around the 45-minute mark, we'll kick it off to Q&A. So we'll give a chance for y'all to ask questions. So if you have questions, post them in the chat. We will visit them towards the end. You can go to the next slide. Great. And let's quickly talk about our companies here. We'll go over this in like 15, 30 seconds each. So I'll let Josh quickly go over Telium.
Thank you. So Telium is a SaaS-based software platform that allows businesses to collect their customer data, clean it up, enrich it into a profile of a person, and then distribute it out to all the third-party tools that you use to interact with and understand your customers. So it's a suite of different software products, and we'll get into more detail in a moment. But really, what the end goal is that it allows businesses to really delight their customers with the best experience because they truly understand their customers. Thank you.
Transparent Partners is a independent marketing technology consultancy company, and we empower marketeers to excel in a data-driven world. And we do that by this trying to simplify the orchestration of data, technology, people, and processes to ensure that brands are thriving in this ever-changing marketing landscape. Thank you.
Yeah, Lightup is actually one of the best data quality tools for the enterprise that's on the market right now for you, and being able to handle any scale of data size, actually understanding what's going on in your data, and being able to deploy wherever you need to. So it's super easy to use. And we actually helped Darren empower him with data quality understanding and all of the data that he was bringing in. So
thanks, guys. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Josh from Telium to go into his part of the presentation.
Thanks so much, Ferris. All right. So customer data is one of a business's most valuable assets. And if it's used correctly, it can really supercharge a personalized customer experience. But most businesses don't do this, or at least they don't do it well. So question for you all, have you ever shopped for something online only to be retargeted by ads and emails and push messages and all sorts of communications asking you to return and buy that thing? My question for you really is, how personalized was that message? So if you were lucky, it might have included the products that you were looking at, but in most cases, it's just going to be a generic message. Then once you bought it, did you still see these ads and emails? You probably did. And that gets frustrating, right? It happens to me all the time. So even worse is sometimes you might get a better offer than what you just bought that product for, right? Maybe they come back with a bigger discount than you had when you bought that thing. So these are the sort of problems that Telium helps businesses overcome, right? It's just an example of that disconnected communication that leads to the suboptimal customer experience. So today, for businesses, the customer is in control and their expectations are always evolving. And to innovate and remain competitive, businesses need to understand their audiences through data. And companies who can deliver a relevant, timely experience are succeeding compared to their competition. Now, finding the right data to deliver these experiences at a surface level sounds simple, but there are consistent hurdles that every company faces to be successful in this area. So how does your organization handle these challenges, right? The first is siloed tools and teams. Each team has a different tool. You have your media team and your email team and your CRM team. And each of these tools has important, valuable data, but they just don't share it very well with any of the others. And each of these teams is really, in many cases, not sharing their own knowledge between them. The next is an incomplete view of the customer. So each tool has that data, but if it's not a complete view, none of those tools has that complete view, and they're not able to really personalize that experience. And then last is untrustworthy insights. And that can include data quality issues that we're talking about today. And if you don't trust your insights, then you're not going to use them. Then last of all is just really complex governance, right? There's all these new and changing privacy laws. There's technology such as ad blockers and the browsers stopping third-party cookies. All these things are impacting the ability to understand who your customer is, and they're changing all the time. So we believe that great experiences start with the right data, and we know that one size doesn't fit all. So we're open and we support the stack that you have now and whatever you grow into in the future. So our unique approach, we start with first-party data infrastructure. Data is an asset, and every company must own their data in order to ensure customer insights, advertising, and a personalized experience continues. And Tealium provides every business with their own first-party data foundation. Next is flexible collection and delivery. So there are challenges raised by, again, privacy laws, ad blockers, all these other things I mentioned a moment ago. And businesses at this point in time really require both a tag-based and an API-based approach to data collection. Tealium provides the infrastructure needed to collect any source of customer data in any format and deliver it to every tool the business uses. Next is best of breed. What does that mean? That means that the MarTech and the ad tech ecosystem, it's constantly in flux. There's new products, new companies coming around all the time. There's old ones that you might not want to work with anymore. And as these new tools and strategies emerge, Tealium provides a vendor-neutral set of data and turnkey, easy-to-use integrations to all these different products to fuel your business today and tomorrow with the right data. Finally, real-time. And when we say that, we really mean it. If data is a business's most critical asset, we believe that it needs to be available for actioning in real time. And we are end-to-end a real-time data collection, standardization, and delivery platform. Now, just for a moment here, overview of different products, right? We have upper left-hand side, data collection and quality, and that's our tag management system, Tealium IQ, and our API Hub event stream. And these work to collect and clean up and distribute event-level data from websites and apps and any other source that you have customer data stored in. Next, we have our customer data platform audience stream. And that's where it takes this event-level data and it transforms it into profiles of people, such as customers or prospects. And you use our user interface to build rules and machine learning so we can understand who these people are. Turnkey integrations. That's used by all of our products. And they are available to over 1,300 different vendors, again, using APIs and tags. It makes it very easy to set up, and it also has a lot of governance and security to reduce the risk compared to a homegrown approach. Finally, data management. What that really refers to is our ability to store and stage this data if you need it. This right here is a diagram of our customer data hub. So it's all of the products together. And we work across 5 stages to help you collect, standardize, transform, enrich, and integrate this customer data. The power of this is that it's a holistic solution that starts at the point of collection in every channel, because what you can do with your customer data is ultimately decided by what you can collect and how you can transform it once it's collected. And the whole process, again, works in real time. And when I say real time, it's about 200 milliseconds from collection to enrichment to activation. So first, we provide integrations to collect your customer data from any source. We never limit you to a specific data set or a specific format. And then we standardize your data into a unified data layer. Next, before it's ever even processed or stored, we respect privacy and consent. So if someone says, don't collect my data, it never enters our platform. Consented data enters stage 3, where Telium can clean up errors and enrich it into those person-level profiles. And when we know there's an issue in advance, we can fix them in real time as the data is collected. And that's why a proactive strategy from partners like Transparent and reporting from partners like Lightup is so valuable. Because as that data is growing and changing, if there are issues, if we know what those issues are, we can address them. Now, the second lock icon represents conditional consent. So someone may, for example, opt into tracking for analytics, but they might opt out of social media advertising. So if that's the case, Telium would never distribute that data back out to any social vendors. And then finally, the last 2 stages represent our 1,300 plus turnkey integrations to big names you'd certainly recognize, like the Amazons and Googles and Metas of the world, and all the way down to some niche players that you might not recognize unless you lived in a particular country or worked in a particular vertical. The arrow at the bottom represents a feedback loop. So sometimes those destinations where we send the data to, they're also returning data back. And when they do that, the process is just repeated again. Now, this is our view of how a business is going to grow and mature regarding customer data over time. And you're going to start out most of the time in phase 1, where you might need to update your data collection, right? Have you implemented consent management? Have you overcome challenges around losing third-party cookies? Do you have all the data that you need to accomplish your CDP use cases in later phases? If so, if you have that solid data foundation, you move on to phase 2, where you begin your CDP journey, right? Customer data platform that's all about personalizing their experience. And it usually starts out with just a few use cases to prove out value. Phase 2 might only have some of the customer data, and it might only, sort of work. We might only be activating in a couple of channels. Now, once that's dialed in, you move on to phase 3, where you're really going to roll out across all sources of customer data and all marketing channels. And then on to phase 4 for more advanced use cases and continuous testing and improvement. Finally, what are the benefits of a data-first CDP, right? First of all, there are operational efficiencies. We're going to automate the unified customer view. What might be a manual process today becomes an automated process. And then you're going to have that consistent segmentation and targeting across all of your MarTech tools. And finally, increasing speed to market is really, huge impact on the operational side. Next is just the improved marketing outcomes. And what we see is increased conversion rates, increased retention rates, optimized marketing spend, and ensuring privacy preferences are upheld. Last of all, the enhanced customer experience, because that's really the goal, right? Providing the right message at the right time in the right channel. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass this on to Darren for his case study.
Thank you, Josh. For those of you who joined a little bit late, my name is Darren Rankin. I'm a partner of technology at Transparent Partners. We're a marketing, technology, and data consultancy company. And today I'm going to take you through a use case. I'm going to take you through a case study that we were managing a CDP on the day-to-day basis. And I'm going to talk through the issues that we encountered. So just going to paint a picture. This is a very similar diagram to what Josh said, but I'm just going to talk you through this and tell you about the different types of data that we were bringing in. So on the left-hand side of the diagram, you can see a customer. And we were capturing 4 groupings of data from that customer in real time. So we were collecting data about their name and their address. That was the personal information. We were also collecting their behavioral data. So this is how they behave on a website and in a mobile app. And then the engagement data that we were collecting is data of how they interact with the marketing campaigns and the email campaigns that we send to them. And then finally, the last grouping of data that we were collecting was the data where they've made specific purchases of products that this client had to offer. Now, in the center of the diagram is the CDP. That's where all this data was being brought together. And Josh covered this about how you have this data collection from all these different sources. And it was bringing all this data together in real time, 200 milliseconds. And we were getting this unified profile. We're getting a single view of a customer. And once that's done, that's when the marketing person can come in and start creating audiences. And the audiences really consist of different criteria or rules based on the data that's in the CDP to create different groupings of customers. And from there, you can do the activations. And those activations are being sent to different channels. So in this instance, we were activating through email, we're sending mobile push messages, but we were also going through paid channels such as Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and Google. And on the right-hand side, you can see that feedback loop that Josh mentioned earlier as well. Because as those customers engage with those marketing campaigns, we then want to continue to bring that data, that engagement data, maybe their new purchases and engagements on the mobile phone back into the platform. So it's a continuous cycle. So that's the high-level scenario of what we were dealing with. But the case study that I'm going to talk about now goes into a little bit more detail. So we had a scenario where an app change was made to the mobile application to add a new feature. The new feature was a sign-in feature. It was going to add some single sign-in capabilities. But what happened was that app modification inadvertently changed the marketing opt-in flag from true to false. So, if you can picture a mobile app, you've got that little toggle saying that you opt in for marketing, yes, no. Well, this change actually modified that from true to false for everybody. Now, that caused a big problem because email campaigns that are powered by this CDP, we can only send emails to people that are opted in. So this change is causing a lot of people to be opted out. And the issue was found by seeing a decrease in the audience size. So imagine that audience, there's a number of people in that audience that was going to go to that campaign. That audience size decreased and the number of emails that were being sent out decreased. So from an impact perspective, what we saw was that 1.4 million users had their marketing opt-in flag incorrectly changed from true to false. And they were then all removed from the email campaigns. Now, the number of users who engaged with those email campaigns was 30 to 40% lower than we expected. And then we spent hundreds of hours investigating the issue and correcting the data, and then modifying the mobile application, because ultimately that's what had a bug inside it. A really big impact of all of this was our business users, the people that were using this platform, started to distrust the data and the operations of the CDP. So in summary, we had 37.5% erroneous reduction in our addressable email population. Our engagement volume was down by 30 to 40%. We then spent over 300 hours diverted away from other tasks to remedy this issue. And then because the business started to distrust the data, it actually resulted in our team spending 20% more time in validating any data requests that we sent to the business. So what we did was we tried to quantify or to capture these things as challenges and then objectives. So these were some of the challenges that we saw that we were having. So when dealing with millions of real-time events, what were the techniques that could be utilized to identify the data quality problems from source systems? Because essentially as a CDP, we don't have the ability to change the source system. We're recipients of that data. Nevertheless, we wanted to see any data quality issues immediately. So we changed that into an objective. We wanted to quickly identify any anomalies in the source data. On our second challenge, we wanted to see what methods could be used to detect issues with the size of an audience before they are noticed by the business users. So our objective there was to promptly detect data anomalies related to audience sizes. The third challenge was, how can we maintain data quality without increasing headcount of our team and without requiring a labor-intensive process? So the objective there that we settled on was we wanted to reduce the manual labor effort involved in finding data anomalies. And then finally, we were, what steps could we take to restore the trust with the business in the system when they were the ones that were identifying the data quality issues before we were? So finally, our objective there was we wanted to demonstrate our ability to identify the data quality issues proactively in order to start re-establishing that trust. Now, when transparent partners help our clients, we follow a process. And so we actually followed the same process here that we would follow with one of our clients. Our first step was information gathering. We interviewed representatives to understand what data challenges they were having, and we expressed those observations as user stories. In the next phase, the use case engineering, we analyzed those user stories to identify common themes for problems to be solved and the functionality that was required, and we expressed those as use cases. In the third phase, the capability assessment, we then decomposed those use cases into the enabling capabilities that we required that went across people, process, tech, and data. In the fourth phase, this is the stage where you start looking at different solutions and evaluating them. So we, in this instance, we evaluated the solutions through discussions with several vendors. And from those discussions, and based on the demos and the discussions we had, and based on our use cases that we had, we opted to perform a proof of concept with Lightup.ai. The final two steps were about funding and decision support. So this is making sure that we establish agreement on what is the problem we're trying to solve, what is the solution, and making sure the decision makers understand the recommended solution, what the total cost of that solution be, and then the projected return on our investment. And the final stage, the activation support, was providing that specialized expertise and the focused attention to implementing and activating the chosen tool. Now, when we conducted our information gathering, these are some of the things that we got from that phase. So we conducted 3 interviews with our operational team, which essentially was across 5 different team members. We extracted 10 user stories, and which gave us essentially 4 use cases that required anomaly detection functionality. Some of the things that we heard are called out here. I want to be able to detect data issues before the marketing campaign is activated. I want to quickly and easily find data issues so I can get to the root cause of the problem faster. I want to identify missing or incorrect data so I can ensure the accuracy and quality of my analysis and predictions. I want to reduce the amount of time I spend viewing reports, looking for data quality issues. I want to find data quality issues before the business user finds them. And finally, I want to be able to detect anomalies without leveraging historic benchmarks. So we piloted Lightup.ai on live data, focusing on the use cases that we captured. And these were our observations from that experience. The first observation was it was easy to configure. It was really easy for us to configure metrics and monitors that Brian will talk to you about later. We had the monitors up and running in less than 1 hour. So less than 1 hour with live data, we were getting the benefits of the Lightup.ai platform. Support. Lightup, Brian and his team were extremely supportive during this pilot. We had a shared document where we shared our use cases, we posted questions, and Lightup would provide real-time responses to those questions. So the project was constantly moving forward in a constant agile state. The third observation is something that we call push versus pull. It was quickly apparent to us that this tool operated different from other types of tools. The tool learned from the data what was considered normal and alerted us when anomalies were detected. So we no longer had to look for issues, we were alerted to them. The fourth category of observations was in the category of savings. We saw during the pilot that this tool had the potential to eliminate the need of our operators to monitor data quality reports. And then finally, trust. We saw the potential that this tool would identify issues before the business users, and it would enable us to re-establish that trust with our business partners. The outcomes of this experience. So the pilot was highly successful, and it led us to immediately purchase the tool. And after several months of using this tool, we've observed a number of outcomes. So number one is trustworthiness. By promptly identifying data issues, we've regained the trust of our business users. The second one is improved data quality. Our data quality has significantly improved as a result of these automated monitors that notify us when an anomaly occurs. Our third outcome, the 12% decrease in manual labor. Our faster detection and the limitation of the spread of erroneous data has led to the reduction in the time and effort required to identify and address data issues. And then finally, number four, a 25% improvement in morale. Our team are more content as they concentrate on other significant responsibilities, and we've eliminated some of their repetitiveness from their day job. That concludes how we took this case study, how we had these issues with data quality, how we had challenging trust with our business partners, and we leveraged the AI tool to remedy that. Transparent Partners helps our clients in a number of ways. This is just one way today that you've heard from us. We have 7 products. I'll just run through those quickly. We offer a product around marketing data strategy, where we help our clients maximize the potential of their marketing data. We have a product around MarTech and AdTech optimization, which helps you get the best return on investment from your technology. Sometimes it involves us optimizing your existing tech. Sometimes that involves us helping you pick the right technologies to deliver on your marketing promise. We also have products around measurement and optimization. Operational readiness is always a challenge. No piece of technology is going to help a client without making sure that they have the correct operating models, people that are trained appropriately to leverage that new tool. And on our 6th product, we can actually accelerate our clients' need to get to their goals faster by augmenting their existing team with people from our team. And finally, the last product that we offer here at Transparent is a product that can help you unlock the possibilities of your own digital assets and help monetize them. So thank you very much for listening to this case study today. I'm now going to hand you over to Brian, and Brian's going to talk about the Lightup.ai product in more detail. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. Thanks, Josh. Really appreciate going through all of that. I have the enviable task of talking about anomaly detection in 10 minutes. So if you don't understand, just go to ChatGPT and ask it to explain it to you like you're 5, because that's actually what I did. And here's what I came up with. So the first thing to note, and hopefully Google will actually work now. Are you guys actually able to see that? I'm making sure you guys able to see that. We'll try this again. Of course not. Well, let's just zoom in and see what happens. Okay, So the first thing to note here is that in anomaly detection, there is no such thing as an AI or ML's silver bullet. It just doesn't exist. And that's actually one of the things that most people don't really understand, is that they think that if you just apply or you just say the phrase AI, like Beetlejuice, you say it enough times, it's just going to magically show up. And that's actually not how AI works or ML works. So there is no silver bullet. You can't just apply it and just assume that it's going to happen. The first thing to note about anomaly detection and how machine learning is going to operate is that you have two flavors. You have two options. One is going to be your unsupervised versus your supervised option. Now, what that means is, imagine the Legos that you see on the right side of that screen there. An unsupervised way is basically telling a computer, here's a big mess of Legos, and then you figure out what to do with it. And then the computer will go and try to figure out how to organize the Legos. Now, that might be by color, it could be by size, you could do it by Lego set. There's a lot of options that are available to you. Now, that compared to supervised machine learning, which is basically you tell the computer what you want as the output, like I want it by color, I want it by category. And then the actual anomaly detection monitor the actual machine learning model will go and do that sorting for you. What makes it different between unsupervised and supervised is you're telling it the desired outcome, right? So you don't have to train it as much because it's already knowing to correct itself if the desired outcome is not there. Whereas in unsupervised, you have to train it more frequently. So the other thing to note here is that every model is entirely different in the desired outcome that it's trying to produce for you. So for example, everyone's been learning about ChatGPT recently and what LLMs are. If I'm trying to apply ChatGPT to data configuration and data anomaly detection, it may work, but it probably won't. And the reason why is it's not actually built to do anomaly detection on the data that exists. That's not the purpose of ChatGPT because it's not built for that, right? In the same way, leveraging something called like k-means clustering or k-nearest neighbor, not going to be the best thing if you're going to ask it a question about, a history paper that you've got to write or something along those lines. It's probably not going to be able to give you any answers at all, except for how it's actually clustering all of the words you just gave it into different groups and how close they are. So you want to make sure you have the right type of model that you're going to be leveraging, which is unsupervised or supervised. You also need to understand what the difference is in regards to how you're going to implement it and what type of requirement the user is going to have. Unsupervised, in a lot of cases, has more user requirements because you have to tell it yes or no, that's what I want. Yes or no, that's a truly an anomaly, or it's not. It's a false positive, false negative, right? And then you also want to make sure that the model that you're leveraging, or if you're leveraging multiple models, that is actually going to be applicable to what we're looking at here. So we've got all of that. So let's talk about like how to make anomaly detection work for you specifically as the user. So the first thing is you need to know your data set and you need to know your desired outcome. That doesn't require you to be a subject matter expert in your data specifically, right? You don't need to know every single bell and whistle that's there. You don't need to know, your min, max, and average out of the box. Like you don't need to know any of those specifically, but you want to know your data set in the sense of, I know that this is a number, it relates to revenue, and I need to understand if that's going up or going down, because down might be bad and up might be good, or vice versa. So you need to know the data set in general and the desired outcome. The second thing is you need to train your model. Now, regardless of unsupervised or supervised, the model needing to be trained, the more data you give it, the better, right? Let's take the Lego analogy. If I gave it two Legos, one blue, one red, and that's all I did, well, is it easy to group that by? Yes, because all it has to do is just separate one from another. That's really simple. Unsupervised, supervised, it doesn't really matter, right? But if all of a sudden I give it 1,000 Legos or 1,000,000 Legos, and now I tell it to go do this different type of training on that data set and what my outcome is expecting to be, the more data, the better it is to train the actual model. Now, the other thing that's important is analyzing the model output and giving it feedback. Okay, so here's a really good use case or example for you in this case with like the Legos concept. So you get 1,000,000 Legos, you give it to this supervised or unsupervised machine learning model, and you tell it to go and do whatever magic ML is doing on the back end. okay? Now it sorts it out. You can have by color, category, by part and color. You can have it by collection type size, which we talked about. And once you have that separation out as required, now you're actually able to say, okay, is it actually in the sort that I want it to be? This says by color. Well, is it pink and red? Are they grouped together, or is pink and red, are they separated, right? Yellow, orange, blue, like, is it dark blue? Is it light blue? And do I want those grouped, or do I not want those grouped? That's the type of feedback that you want to give it, right? Now, when it comes to anomaly detection, the feedback you're going to give it is yes or no. So if you look at the picture in the bottom right of all of the stormtroopers, and then you've got the one mime clown that's sitting there, well, if you're just looking at a general categorization of black and white and characters that are black and white, all of those are actually in the same category. So if you have unsupervised, for example, you would the machine learning model would see that and say it's good, because it's categorizing it as a minifigure and it's black and white, and that's what colors they are. But then as the user, I go back and say, okay, I actually need to give you feedback because that's actually not the right correlation. So now I need you to not only do minifigure in black and white, but minifigure black and white and a rounder head with a helmet versus a hat. Okay, so there's differences that you're going to have. You're going to give different feedback that's there. Now let's see if this slideshow actually works, because there we go. Okay, so how do we make anomaly detection better? So the first thing to note is anomaly detection methods, they're only as good as the intended outcome of the model that's employed. We talked about this before. Wrong model being deployed for this data set is actually going to give us the wrong output, and it's going to break everything, right? Becomes a huge problem. Many anomaly detection models, they try to create correlations where correlations may not exist. So for example, most of you may not know this, but did you know that as the amount of ice cream sold, as the amount of ice cream sold increases, the amount of shark attacks increase, right? Now, is that actually correlated? Not at all, right? Because then that would tell you that if you don't want to get, bit by a shark, then don't eat ice cream. That's not actually true, but that's a correlation that's there. There's no causation, right? And so many anomaly detection models try to make the correlation between the data sets, and then they classify anomalies that are outside of that correlation. So understanding how the anomaly detection model, understanding how the machine learning model actually operates, what's the desired outcome, and how it's actually going to operate there with the desired outcome, and how you provide feedback, that's going to make it even better for you. The next thing is that all models require training. It doesn't matter if it's supervised or unsupervised. They all require training. There is no silver bullet on any of that. And here's one thing that all of you either will be bit by, or you have been bitten by before, which is seasonality actually breaks anomaly detection models. So, and as a result, when you have a broken anomaly detection model, you have really bad confidence. And historical data will help with this. So let me give you an example. So we have a general trend here of, let's say this is users submitting, I don't know, insurance to their insurance provider. They're submitting insurance claims. So we're seeing here that it's kind of going uptrend in the January winter timeframe. It comes down in April, and then all of a sudden in the summer it goes back up, which makes sense. Now, if I kick off my anomaly detection model training, right? Because remember, all of them require training. If I kick it off now, right, at this point, then what's going to happen next is it's going to see all of these different points. And as it sees those points, it's never seen them before. So it's going to tell you there's an anomaly. As the user, I'm going to go in and say, no, it's not an anomaly. That's okay. That's the trend that we're expecting. And it does this for 5 points consecutively. Now, that's not really going to give me a lot of confidence. But here's what ends up happening in the model's perspective, is that this is the accepted range. Now, all of a sudden, you get your dip that's going down. Now you've got your seasonality, which you know as the user, you have seasonality, but the model doesn't know. So now you get these consecutive 4 points that are actually outside of the range, and every single time we end up clicking, yes, that's okay, yes, that's okay, yes, that's okay. But here's the problem. Now our range is huge, right? It's really, really, really big. But you'll also notice on the right-hand side, there's a little bit that goes above, and maybe that's okay. But here's the problem. if you notice how this worked, I launched it in, let's say, the end of January, and by the time I got to April, I already had to put in 9 different times saying, no, this is not an anomaly, that this is okay. Right? So that seasonality actually broke my confidence in the actual model itself. But here's another problem, which again, not many people know when they launch anomaly detection models, is that very soon in the future, you're going to have a second wave of anomalies that are going to come up as false positives, false negatives. And this is exactly what we're seeing here. So I was okay with the outcome all the way up until I got into, let's say, I don't know, August, September timeframe. And now I get alerted to it. But if I've not been paying attention to this because I haven't seen any issues for the last 6 months, I'm going to freak out the first time I see it because there's something wrong, right? Because I trusted anomaly detection with this one. And so now I have to go in and again, freaking out, I have to go in and figure out, is it actually a problem or is it not a problem? And so I say, no, it's not a problem. I'm sorry for all the JIRA tickets and all that type of stuff that went off, PagerDuty alerts or whatever it was. And so now I can actually associate that range as needed. But there's a big problem here. If you look at this, what if I have an anomaly that happens in that lull, in the drop down? If all of a sudden it comes back up, let's say in May, it jumps back up, that should be an anomaly that we're not actually understanding. And you typically won't get this with an anomaly detection model unless you're having a lot more data associated to it. And this is actually how Lightup operates. So the first thing to note is we actually leverage supervised machine learning for anomaly detection. This was very helpful with Darren and how Transparent Partners was operating, because everyone has historical data. If you're talking to us, if you're not going to light up at all, if you're doing anything with data, you have historical data. And so if we can leverage your historical data, we can actually train using that historical data as far back as you have that data available. Okay. So in this case, we're concerned with more what you care about, not necessarily what the model sees. This goes back to correlation versus causation. If I just let machine learning run rampant in my data sets, it's going to come up with what it sees, regardless of what I as the user care about. And you are going to load your customer or your user up. You're going to load them up with work, either in the short term at the beginning or in the long term over the time that it's deployed. So in Lightup's case, we would rather say, you tell us when we're supposed to go train the models, we'll go train it. And then when you're comfortable with what you're actually seeing, you can launch it. Right? Now, it seems like a little bit of work because it's a lot of click journey, you're supplying more information, but you're telling us what you care about. And now going forward from the point that you launch that anomaly detection model, you actually don't need to worry about it as much. Right? This is the opposite of, we're just going to turn it on. It's completely automatic. All this automagic stuff's going to happen in the background. And then we're just going to ping you 1,000 times in a short period of hours or days or weeks, and then do it again in a couple months. So we want to be able to understand trend and seasonality. How do we do that? We look at your history, and that gives you the ability to actually dictate that ahead of time before you launch in production. And then the other thing is, how does a machine learning model know relevance across your different data sets? And how do they know if it's important, right? If you have one table, and as you add data to that one table, you have a pipeline that's going to add relevant data to a completely different table, maybe even move a user identifier or something along those lines to another table. Well, now my machine learning model needs to actually look at all of that information and try to make the correlation. But now it's going to make correlations that I don't care about because I'm adding more potential of correlations that are there when that's actually not the case. So it's almost impossible for machine learning models, at least right now, to make proper inferences across different data sets and tables that exist. Right. And then the other thing that we want to do is we want you to provide feedback, but we want it to be rare. We don't want you to have to provide feedback to make it good. We want to say, hey, here's a couple of things we're noticing outside of the range, and you might pick 1 out of 100 rather than every one of the 100, right? That's going to be the major difference between them. So in general, and this is something that Darren actually experienced with Transparent Partners and how they were leveraging with Lightup, and this adds to that confidence or the contentment boost that's there. The more user feedback required as your model moves on, the lower the confidence is, right? That's just in general how users or how people operate. You become callous to it, right? Most of us have implemented email filters to get rid of all the emails we don't care about, because when you get hired to a new company, you get 1,000 emails, and that becomes a huge problem. So here's an example of that similar, but we're going to expand out the history for this one. So I'm actually going to tell Lightup in this case, go train on the last 2 years worth of data, specifically in these purple areas. So you're going to train on that. The outcome is now going to be that we're significantly more attuned to the seasonality and trend. So if you have these little spikes that are coming out at any point, we're going to alert you to that one, because it's actually an anomaly in your seasonality. It's an anomaly within the trend that you actually have as your business. Stuff that we care about, stuff that we're going to train on and make sure that you get alerted to. So lastly, real quick, how does Lightup do this? So rapid rule implementation, you can do this in no code, low code, which is a bunch of drop-down capabilities. And we do have the ability to do SQL if you have these really like complex cross data source, cross table correlation checks that you probably want to do. But we can do all of those very rapidly. We actually are going to push those queries down to the different data sources. And this can be transactional systems, data warehouses, data lakes, and even file introspections. So if you've got parquets and CSV files and things like that, we can actually do these queries and these data quality checks on those systems. And then we actually do incident monitoring inside of Lightup for you. You can be alerted through your favorite chat system, PagerDuty. We also create Jira and ServiceNow. We can tie into a data catalog and data lineage tools, so you can actually get all this information actually populated up. So you get these really deep, complex checks, easy to scale, with anomaly detection all the way end to end, and then actually have those populate up intelligently for you. So this is just kind of a basic rundown of how we do it. Data quality indicator, just like I mentioned, very easy drop down. We push it down. Other systems, they require you to pull it out or just leverage metadata. Monitors, you define it, you train it, you preview it, and you can monitor it live, just launch it live. Everyone else really actually requires you to launch it in production immediately without training, and then you have to train it over time. And then lastly, we have that full incident monitoring capability. So you can see what the incident is, you can see what the status is, you can see where it should operate. And that's an entire operational workflow for you to leverage inside of Lightup. Most other systems, actually almost every single other system, they have a little bit, if any, but most of the time they require you to tie into external systems like Jira and ServiceNow to have any incident monitoring whatsoever. But all of that is out of the box. And the last thing to note for you that for those of you who are highly regulated, we actually can be deployed within your VPC and your network and your cloud, wherever you want to, as well as SaaS. So we can be wherever you need to meet your requirements and to actually scale that out to any size that you need. All right, rush through that whole thing really, really fast. Again, ChatGPT is there if you have any questions. You can find me on LinkedIn if you have any emails. And there's a good question, but before I get to that question, I'm actually going to pass it over to Faris, and then we'll answer Joshua's question in the actual audience FAQ.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for going through that. I know there's a lot to cover there, a lot of information, and as always, we do educational opportunities like this, and we are here to talk to you guys as well. So if you have questions that we can't get to, put them in the chat, and we'll definitely working internally to get the right answers to you from someone on our teams. So Brian, you mind moving to the next slide real quick there? Awesome. We jump forward one more slide. So I know we covered a lot, so I just want to pass it over really quickly to Josh, Darren, and Brian for 20 seconds each. You want to give your just high-level summary of kind of what you talked about, and just the takeaway that you want the audience to have from today's presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Faris. So Tealium is a suite of software that helps you connect your customer data so you can connect with your customers. And really owning your customer data is that first step towards providing that truly personalized experience. However, if there are problems with that underlying data, you're not going to be able to deliver that experience. And tools like Lightup and strategy from Transparent are really in support of that strategy, and that's going to be how you're going to be able to truly delight your customers, is having a handle on that underlying data and making sure that it is the highest quality. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Oh. From my perspective, what I want you to take away from this is the lifeblood of a CDP is the data that's being fed into it and the data that's coming out of it. And we had a really big challenge. We were getting and receiving bad data from upstream platforms. We were taking a lot of time to discover those data quality issues. It was taking us a lot of time to modify and handle and get to the root cause of those issues. And so we went to the marketplace, we followed the transparent process, and we found a tool for us, piloted it, and now it's live in production. It was very, very simple to set up. And now we've reestablished trust with our business partners. We've reduced manual effort of our team members, and our data quality has improved because of this tool. We're happy transparent partners, are happy to field any questions. If you want to talk to us more about how we could help you, please use the link on this page. Thank you.
Thanks, Darren.
Yeah. And just recap, Lightup data quality for the enterprise at really any scale that you need. We can deploy wherever you want to. The idea here is to get as rapidly scaled out with full data quality coverage as quickly as you can. That's done by unlocking data quality from being really tied to a bottleneck team, but making everyone available to leverage it and to build out even complex checks. And then to layer on anomaly detection capabilities on top of that, especially using your business's historical data to make sure that it's actually launching in production as needed. If you'd like to actually try out Lightup, we do have a free trial capability. So just go to that resources.lightup.ai free trial site, and then we can sign you up for that. If you need anything more intense, more white glove, just let me know on LinkedIn, send me an email, brian@lightup.ai, and we can talk further about that.
Thank you, Brian. You mind moving to the next slide really quickly too? Just I guess it didn't show up here. Oh, there we go. This is what that free trial page looks like. So we will send this link along with the link to speak with Transparent Partners and Darren and his team, along with Josh at Telium in a follow-up email. So if you're interested in chatting with any of us, let us know, and you'll have an email with the respective links there. And with that, let's jump to the audience Q&A here. So we have a few questions that were asked in the chat, and we have some frequently asked questions I'd like to cover. So I know we're reaching the end of the hour here. So let's say we'll give it about another 10 minutes. Do you guys all have 10 more minutes? Ryan, Darren, and Josh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. We'll give it 10 minutes here. So let's see. CL asks, how do the recent Safari changes and Google's proposed changes affect tagging? Is Telium affected? The changes in Apple's Safari browser make it harder for websites to work with third-party services like Google Analytics, for example.
Yeah, I started to answer in the chat, but really it does not impact Telium. What it impacts is the ability to track visitors across domains. So if you have multiple websites, right, and you want to track an anonymous visitor from one to the next, that's going to be impacted. But what's really been driving it most recently is the blocking of view-through tracking in advertising. So you view an ad out in the wild in Google or Facebook or wherever it is, and then with a third-party cookie, you can tell that person comes to your site and buys something, and you can connect that together. And when the third-party cookies go away, that really impacts advertising. You can imagine the amount of money that big advertisers are spending, and then they're suddenly unable to connect the return on investment there. So the move has been, in the last couple of years, to start tracking those particular types of events by API instead of by the tag. And that's really helped a lot of advertisers recover a lot of these conversions that were lost. And Telium offers our tag management system, which was our first product that's been around for over 10 years. And then for about the last 5 years, we offered an API hub. So it's the combination of those two, because there are lots of vendors that do not offer APIs that still do require tags. So, if you're doing marketing with a whole bunch of different technologies, you're going to need tags for some of those vendors. You're going to need APIs for others, and you'll have to take that hybrid approach for the time being.
Great. Thank you for answering that, Josh. Joshua asks, how does Lightup deal with data shift over time?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's two concepts here of data shift. One is time can be very short or it can be very long, right? And so you can see this as like general customers being acquired by the company over time. That could be like over time of like day over day, but it could be year over year. And so there's two ways that you can look at that. Number one is if you expect your jump between one level and the next level to happen every day, week, or month, or even quarter, you can actually customize Lightup's anomaly detection model to say, go train on my history. Also, we expect this to increase or we expect it to decrease over time. So let me know if seasonality and burn or seasonality and increase trend are actually what's going to be triggering your alerting system itself. So that's one way that we do that immediately. And then the other one is you do always have the ability to go back and say like, oh, this is not an alert. We've actually seen this growing over time. And now it just happened to, inch one spot above where the expectation is based off of the model. And so you can actually just reject that in Lightup, and it'll actually train the model at that point to include that anomaly as a part of what is okay going forward.
Great. Thanks for addressing that, Brian. Tom asks, does Telium or Lightup provide any data cleanup capabilities, or is it all about detection?
Yeah, I could jump in there for at least for the first part. Yeah, Telium offers the ability to clean up, reformat, manipulate that data on the fly as it is being processed by our platform. So, that's a really powerful tool because there are always going to be sort of, idiosyncrasies and issues with customer data. It's coming in from all these different sources. And if we know in advance, we can set the rules to reformat and clean that data up as it flows through the system. So that's really, one of our core strengths. So if Lightup can tell us what those problems are, it can help us address sort of unforeseen problems with the data. So that's, sort of where the strength in the partnership comes in there. So I don't know if you have anything else to add, but that's sort of my point of view from Telium's side.
Yeah, definitely. Just real quick from the Lightup side of things. First of all, you don't want us touching your data, not because we're not trustworthy, but because if we mess up, then we mess up on your behalf and that becomes a problem. So what we want to do is we want to basically get you all the way there and then just make it so that you have to do the change because you're the one who actually knows your data and actually you have that capability. And then we want to help you validate it. So we actually have something called a failing records query. So when something has a problem, we'll actually give you sample records from your data sets that show you what the problem is. We'll also give you a query to actually go find what the problem is in your source system. And then you can create a Jira ServiceNow ticket as a requirement. If you pass it off to a data engineer or you yourself go and make the change that's required, and now you say it's fixed, you can go right back to that incident that you had before, and there's a run validation button there. If you click on that, Lightup will rerun that data set time frame with that anomaly detection monitor on there and let you know if the incident is now resolved. So from an RCA remediation standpoint, we do literally everything except for the changing of the data.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that, Brian. And if you're interested in seeing that like in action, like we're here to walk you through that, right? It's makes a lot more sense when you actually watch that incident management happen and you're able to see those failed records queries in action on the screen. So if you have more questions about that, let us know. There's some other couple of frequently asked questions I think people typically have when they're learning about our technologies here. So I just want to go over those real quick here, and we can wrap it up. So where does data quality fit into the journey of an organization's growth? Like where does planning for a data quality tool fit into the life cycle of a company?
Sorry, was that for me, Faris?
It's for anyone, yeah. Feel free on that, Darren, yeah.
I think one of the things that I tend to see in working amongst our clients, sometimes data quality, they don't plan for data quality up front. They put a system live, they start encountering data quality problems. They maybe even get a big situation that costs them money, and then they start investigating a data quality tool. And I think that, for me and for our team, like data is the fuel of marketing. And so more and more now, I think we're encouraging our clients to think of data quality upfront in parallel to bringing in a CDP or another platform. Like it's becoming cool, but it's still a task to convince people that they need it when you haven't had that issue that's drawn executive attention.
Yeah, just to add to that one, I would say in a lot of ways, data quality is like life insurance. Most people don't buy or don't want to buy life insurance until they're already dead. And that obviously becomes a huge problem because, when you have a problem that data quality solution could solve for you, it's usually too late. And so now it's like, how do we recoup all the losses? I know, let's implement a data quality tool. And it's just way too late to be doing that while everyone's kind of running around trying to figure out what's going on. So.
And I've seen it be that topic that everyone knows but doesn't like to talk about. And when it's, just for analytics purposes, it might be difficult to justify the hard sort of strategy and work involved in fixing the underlying data quality. So the times I've seen the change be most successful is when it's been tied to real business value. So, you mentioned like a personalization initiative or going back to sort of like that return on ad spend and signal loss that I was talking about before. When you can tie it back and say, we're going to make the organization X dollars if we can fix the foundational data quality issues, then you're going to have a lot more buy-in.
Thanks for commenting on that. Let's move on to the next question here. Why enable an external tool like Lightup onto Tealium instead of trusting the data just within Tealium itself?
I would say a couple things, right? First of all, Tealium specializes in customer data, and there's going to be a lot of other types of data that you could benefit from that oversight. So having a tool that runs across all your different types of data, you'll be able to use it in lots of different places. The other part is sort of, you don't want the fox watching the hen house, right? You have controls and checks, you have balances in place. So, that's just, it just makes more sense, I think, from that point of view. I get asked that question a lot of times. There's all sorts of monitoring tools, monitoring your website, same thing, right? If Tealium is living on your website, delivering tags to your website for analytics and attribution and things like that, we shouldn't be monitoring those tags also. So you have other tools that monitor the performance, and that way, we can make sure that Tealium and all the other software that you have is performing the way that you'd like it to.
Yeah, makes sense. Any other comments on that question from either of you guys?
From my point of view, when you're managing a CDP and implementing a CDP, there's two areas where you can cause data quality issues. One area is the inbound data that the CDP is receiving, which as a CDP, you don't have any control over. You're a recipient. And so we wanted to, and we were getting millions of rows. So I needed a tool that would observe that and find an anomaly and stop my team from having to watch it. And then the second area is within business logic that you can create within the CDP to create audiences. And I wanted to be able to watch that as well. And I would say, I would encourage anybody with any CDP of having like Lightup.ai in partnership with that CDP from the moment that they go live with that platform.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Thanks for commenting on that, Darren. One other thing I think we were talking about before this chat that was pretty interesting was that there are a range of different issues that can occur within any CDP in general. And do you have any thoughts on like the categories of issues that often might come up in a CDP?
The general categories kind of goes back to those two groupings I was just talking about. It's like it's the inbound data that you don't have any control over. And so, we're getting a lot of real-time data from like the interactions of a mobile app. And so one of the challenges there is that screens on a mobile app are constantly being changed, and sometimes the payload they stop sending events. Sometimes they actually stop sending attributes within those events. So first of all, having a good tagging strategy and an eventing strategy around that is key. That should be implemented as a standard so that mobile developers can follow it. But then you also need a tool to kind of watch it, right? Because you can have your guidelines and your protocols to say, please implement it this way, please pass this data. But then I need a tool that's constantly watching those millions, sometimes billions of rows. And then the second one is just we're creating audiences, we're creating logic, where sometimes, inferring things of if this happens, then that, and we create, where the CDP is actually creating data. So a simple one would be you take a date of birth and you calculate age, right? But you can do much more sophisticated things like that. And so we need to watch, keep a lens on the data that's being created within the CDP, because we're fueling this to go to marketing campaigns, and it's going to affect the customer experience, right? So it's key to watch those two categories.
Yeah, it's really important to make sure that you end up being proactive about that. And I like the life insurance analogy Brian was giving earlier as well. And so the last question before we end today's broadcast here is, we've kind of talked about kind of the power of anomaly detection, how it's helped you at Transparent and being able to be more proactive about catching data quality issues. Oftentimes this question comes up is like, how easy is it actually to create these data quality checks and rules? Like, is there like, do you have to be an expert in SQL? Like, how easy is it for someone to do it?
I mean, I can say it was ridiculously easy. Brian kind of hit on the categories of like knowing your data and knowing whether if it went up it was bad, or down it's bad, or whether up and down is bad. The UI of Lightup is very easy to use. You do not need SQL. You just need to understand your data. And then you can be up and running in less than an hour from having several metrics and monitors running. The training part that Brian talked about as well, that's really easy as well. You just say, I want to train my model based on data that is in this range to this range, and that's my training period. And the tool will even say, hey, thanks for training it on that period of time. These are the incidents that I would have raised had you been live at that point. And so that was another like, whoa. And so we did go through some iterations there, and sometimes we add multiple training periods. So if you've got a blip of data, if you've got data and then you've got an anomaly that about that time when all the opt-ins were set from true to false, you actually exclude that from the training period. But it was just so easy to do because it's a UI. I don't understand ML and AI in the anomaly detection space, and quite frankly, nor do I want to. And that's why I use the AI tool, the Lightup tool to help me in that space.
Yeah, that's great. That's music to our ears, right? I mean, it's a job to be done, and that's why you get software to help you do that. So, thank you, Darren, for sharing your story and your journey. And sorry, Brian, did you have any other comments to add to that?
Actually, just one thing that I wanted to backpack off what Darren was saying there was, I usually try to make the correlation between the majority of the people that work for your company, they operate their data confidence through dashboards, through Power BI filtering, through Excel docs, right? Any of you have ever been a data engineer before, the first question you get from an analyst is, where's the CSV download button? Like, that's the first question you're going to get, because they operate in Excel. And so as easy as it is to just apply a filter to the top of an Excel column and say, sort by this, check these boxes, that's exactly what it's like to make extremely complex checks inside of Lightup. So as a result of that ease of use, and not needing to know code, not needing to know SQL to do 99% of your checks, you can now unlock data quality to anyone who's ever done anything with your data, as comfortable as you are with them, rather than just saying, hey, everybody, make a giant backlog of Jira tickets, make a giant backlog of ServiceNow tickets, and we're going to have a really small data engineering team that now becomes data quality engineers alone. And they're just going to work night and day to try to implement your checks, and it's going to take them 4 to 6 weeks to actually put it in production for you. So there's actually a huge benefit, because now you can scale those checks because of how easy it actually is.
Totally agreed. When you democratize access to software data quality, like you're just enabling everyone else to do it. So things move a lot faster. And on that note, right, if you want to learn and see that in action for yourself, feel free to reach out to us. Our links will be in the email. So if you want some strategy consulting or more information from Darren at Transparent, if you want to learn more about a great CDP like Telium, reach out to Josh and the link in the email. And thank you everyone for joining today's broadcast and for going a little bit over on schedule here. And thank you, Darren, for sharing your story and your journey of how you discovered Lightup and the process you had in solving for data quality. And Josh for enlightening us about CDPs and the landscape. And of course, Brian for teaching us about anomaly detection and about Lightup. So with that, I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and we hope to see you in our next broadcast. We do these monthly, so tune in, and we hope to see you next time.
Thanks,
Adios.
everybody.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.